Good morning, homesteaders. Welcome to our homestead. Welcome back to our garden. Have you ever wondered what you can plant in Zone 8B in Texas in May? Because it's already heating up pretty quickly and it's about to get very hot. But there are a lot of beautiful summer vegetables that you can plant. Let's talk about them. Friends, I want to reassure you that you are not too late. You're not too late to plant, even if it's warm outside. There's plenty that you can put in the ground that loves the heat. So I want to mention 11 beautiful garden fruits and vegetables that you can put in the garden right now. Behind us is the only garden space we have left, because if you saw our previous video on the salt content in our soil from our well, you'd understand that we have to rest and flush out our entire garden for at least a year. Okay, number one, everybody loves, and it grows so well in the heat, and that is beans. Now we've got a lot here, and I highly recommend the Blue Lake bush beans. These things are prolific. They really produce, I think I get them from, yes, Beyond Organic Seeds, but you can find them everywhere. I also have the Blue Lake pole beans. On top of that, I've got long Chinese beans, which love the heat down here in Texas in this zone. They do really well. Now, usually all of these are fairly pest resistant for me anyway. And we talked about previously in this video right here, how to make your soil more nutrient dense so that the plants have more defenses and are stronger so that they can ward off pests. Now, related to that, and very famous here in the South, are southern peas, but they're actually a runner bean. Probably the most famous is the black-eyed pea. Those are actually runner beans, and what works best for us here are these Texas cream zipper peas. Very creamy texture, that's why they're called Texas creams, and they are incredibly prolific and absolutely love the heat. Another vegetable, actually it's a flower pod that you eat, you know what it is. It absolutely loves the heat, and that is okra. This one here, this heavy hitter from Baker Creek Seeds, produces incredibly well, but you have to have incredibly warm soil before starting your okra, because any hint of cold and they won't do anything at all. They will not germinate. Just like peppers and eggplants, which take a lot of heat to germinate, these do as well. And I usually do not start these as starts inside of my house, because they will come up fairly quickly in about 7 days, but the soil temperature has to be pretty good. And right now, it's really warm in Texas. And okra is one of the easiest things that you can save seeds from. Just let one pod that has gone too far that you can't eat dry out, and you have an entire bag full of seeds for the next year. And one pod full of seeds is way more seeds than you'll ever need for the next year. So don't worry about ever running out of okra seeds. And friends, you know the next one, it loves the heat, and that is melons. We always plant these Hale's Best cantaloupe. They are the sweetest in my opinion. I love them, and they grow really well here. But you can actually wait, and I may wait on these for about a month. You can plant these in June, and there's many heat-tolerant vegetables down in this zone that you can actually plant in May and June. So again, you're not too late. So for me right now, I'm not planting these here in this tiny space. It'll just take over. I'm gonna wait and plant these on our new garden plot on the north part of our property. If you haven't seen my development videos on how I've crafted that area, click on these right here. Right now, we're still putting up the fencing for that space to keep the deer out, because if I don't, even if I planted these, they'd be gone really fast. Now, of course, similarly to that, we have squash. We've got a bunch of different varieties of squash, and again, those are going to be planted in that big new space on the north part of our property. As well as these, which are very famous down here that I forgot to mention, and I don't know why, and that's watermelon. Watermelon love the heat. Now, the squash themselves don't particularly like the heat, but the plants thrive in that early heat, and then they will really produce for the fall. So we've got pumpkins that we are putting in, and those need to go in now or in June. If you are a newer gardener and you need help planning out when to plant each crop in your garden, a tool that is incredibly helpful, I've done a video on it before, is called Seed Time. If you click on the video at the top of the screen, I do a full demonstration of what this planning program, this garden planning program can do. And since I've done the video, it has even gotten more tools and more powerful. It is incredibly helpful to keep an eye on the times when you need to direct seed in the garden, when you need to start seeds in the house, when you need to cultivate, when you need to harvest. It's free to sign up, and if you use our link, you can get $5 in free seeds. Now, the two that you see behind me, eggplant and peppers, really thrive in the heat, but you need to start those and get those transplanted in a little bit earlier. If you're trying to start those now in May, even though they really adore the heat, you may not get a good crop out of them. You've got to start them. I started them about 2 months ago. The next one is an amazing plant. This is Swiss chard. It loves the cold. It loves the heat. It's a cruciferous vegetable, so it's a biennial. I highly recommend growing these. Look at this gorgeous Swiss chard that's actually been around for over a year. How big it is. I recommend rainbow chard though. The beautiful colors that you get out of this are awesome. So it's oranges and pinks and reds and yellows and this white one, all of them. The flavor is fantastic. We eat the leaves and the stalks. It absolutely thrives in the heat and does not mind the cold at all. Now, something to keep in mind with chard is each one of these seeds that it produces is a multi-headed seed. So each one of these will produce 2 to 3 to 4 plants each. You will have to thin them out. And be careful how many you plant because you will get a lot of chard. Another one destined for our greenhouse this year that my daughter cannot get enough of, and that is cucumbers. Now, I've got several varieties of cucumbers. The best one that I found for this area are these Munchers cucumbers. They are snacking cucumber. They're not super big. They're only about 6 to 7 inches long, and they're great for pickling too. But any cucumber is going to do incredibly well in the heat. Okay, second to last. And this vegetable actually thoroughly amazes me. It amazes me every year, and it's also a biennial. So it's a cruciferous vegetable. Can you guess what it is? It's a summer green, and that is collards. Collards are incredibly heat tolerant, but what people don't know is they are incredibly cold tolerant as well. They go through a winter here and a winter freeze with no problem at all. But we are talking about the summer Texas heat, and these will absolutely thrive. But hey, the interesting thing is when the winter moves in and the temperatures drop, these collard greens will sweeten up. So I actually like winter collard greens better. They taste better to me, but they thrive in the heat and they are great. They are super high in calcium and very nutritionally dense. Now, this next crop is famous in the South also, and I recommend everybody grow it, and that is the sweet potato. A sweet potato is incredibly nutritionally dense, and they are really easy to keep. They'll keep for a long period of time in your home. So if you're looking for a survival crop, then the sweet potato is certainly one of them. The amount of vitamins and minerals contained in these are amazing, and they just sprout slips every year if you've got them in the house in the right conditions, of course. You should never have to buy more than a few sweet potatoes to keep them going for years and years and years. The last one, which we actually usually don't plant because we have a serious ant problem here in our area of Texas, and I haven't learned how to keep the ants off of corn. Corn loves the heat of the summer and it thrives in it. So if you're going to plant corn, this is the perfect time to do so. And as a fellow gardener, I'm going to reach out to you and ask you if you have had success with keeping ants out of the ears of your corn. Because every year that we have grown corn, we open up those ears and they are almost completely devoured by ants. That is one of those gardening challenges that I have not been able to figure out yet. So the 3 that I'm going to plant this morning are our okra, our runner beans or southern peas, and then our bush beans. All 3 of these are going to do well in the same area. However, you want to have your okra on the north side of where your beans are because they get very tall, obviously about 6 feet, 7 feet tall for some varieties, and they will shade out your other crops. So if you plant your okra in the same bed or in the same area, you're going to want those to the north side. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, of course, and to the south side. And for your okra, since they do get very large, you want to space them out between 12 and 18 inches, depending on variety. For these heavy hitters, you want them 18 inches apart, and you need to wait until the soil is about minimum 75 degrees. But 80 degrees Fahrenheit would be even better. Now these can come fairly close to the edge of your garden because it is a thin stalk that does come up. And you want to plant these about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch deep. These are easiest when they are direct seeded. So we're just going to poke a hole in our soil here, drop our seed in, cover it over, and we're going to give it a good watering to start with, and we should be good to go. All right, friends, happy gardening. If you have any questions, please leave them for me in the comments section below. Now, I better get back to planting before it gets too hot out here. Have a beautiful, blessed day. See you next time.